Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of eDiscovery After Hours. My guest is Jim Sullivan. Jim has been a friend of mine off camera for a while, so it was really fun to have him on the show. A lot of you may know him as the founder and the CEO of eDiscovery AI. What you may not know is that he's a bit of a serial entrepreneur. He's founded multiple companies over the past decade. So it was neat talking to him about that path, how he balances all those responsibilities, and then talk about some things outside the office too, like travels and sports and things of that nature. My sponsor, as always, is Proteus Discovery Group. You may have seen recently Proteus purchased Novitas Data. It's a super complementary combination of these two companies. Proteus was a Rel 1 provider. Novitas had Relativity Server. And so Proteus will now offer both. Proteus's roots were in managed document review, and Novitas's roots were in paper. Proteus is, headquartered in Indianapolis in the Midwest. Novitas, about half their team was in the Pacific Northwest where they were founded, and about half their team was in the Southeast. So, from a geographic, from services, and just from options for clients' perspective, a really, really solid combination. If you want more, check out proteusdiscovery.com. Thanks for tuning in.
Quick time!
You don't know how to drink, your whole generation.
Drinks on the house.
Yes, sir.
No, wait a second. Drinks are 50% off.
Right.
No, wait a second. Double the price of everything.
And I work only 16 hours a day.
A union man only works 8 hours a day.
I belong to 2 unions.
And now, eDiscovery After Hours with your host, Ryan Short.
Jim Sullivan, welcome to eDiscovery After Hours. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Mm-mm. What are we drinking? It tastes like college.
Rum and diets today. Rum and diets in my fancy drink cup here.
Is that, I see it says Sullivan. What does the second line say? Is that Mrs.? Mr.?
It does. So, long story short, on our for our wedding, one of my friends got us drink cups for our wedding, and it has a line that you're supposed to fill up with rum and where you're supposed to fill up with Coke, and love them. And lost mine, so now I drink the Mrs. So one of them said Mr. Sullivan, one said Mrs., and here we are.
Does the line move? Like, it's like, here's the line on your honeymoon, and then after you have one kid, it's here, and then after 2 kids, you need this much rum.
I like to feel like it's more of a rounding issue where it's like, that line's there, but we'll go a little bit over it in certain situations, and maybe not in others.
Yeah.
But that's the guideline. We'll call it that.
I think the analogous gift that we received was Lindsay got she got like a spatula, and on one side it said Mr. Right, and on the other side it said Mrs. Always Right, and
Nice.
I found that to be true. I've lost a lot of votes 1-1, so
You and me
that's
both.
yeah, that's right. All right, so a lot of people who are watching or listening to this probably know Jim Sullivan, the founder of eDiscovery AI, but they don't know who the man behind the logo is. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions so people can get to know the man, the myth, the founder. Does that sound
Alright.
fair?
Yeah. Oof.
All right. First of all, Jim, where'd you grow up?
I grew up on the Iron Range in northern Minnesota, small town called Hibbing. If
Yeah.
you play hockey, you probably know it. If you don't play hockey, you probably don't.
What does for those non-Midwesterners, what is the Iron Range?
That is where you have your small town that's built on iron ore mining.
Yeah.
And everyone, the whole town's built around the mines, although, with a lot of change over time, it's not quite a fully mining town anymore. I think it's just that you don't need as many people working there. But yeah, kind of the whole, the town was there because of the mines. And great story. They actually moved the entire town one day. When they discovered that there was iron ore underneath where everyone lived. And so they actually rolled all of the houses across to a new place in town and just moved the town. There's a book called The Town That Moved that kind of lays it out, and it's interesting. And the thing that came out of it, though, is as part of this deal, apparently the mining company said that we build a castle for a school for your kids if you let us move your town. And so if you see our high school, it's pretty incredible.
Oh, wow. That is cool. So they literally just like sliced the houses at the foundation, put them on flatbeds, and just moved them.
Well, they didn't have flatbeds, so they had I believe they had trees, like, like posts, and then they had horses, so they
They just rolled them.
rolled them and pulled them with horses. So this was like 1920s.
So it's
yeah.
incredible the like I think people today were like, oh, we have smartphones and laptops, like we're so sophisticated. And so you just said that there was an entire town in northern Minnesota that was moved on logs. I'm here in downtown Indianapolis. The building has been replaced, but the AT&T building, it was like a 12 or 15-story high rise.
Oh, wow.
About the same time, back in the 1920s, it was literally moved from like facing south on one city block, and it was just rotated to face west on the same city block. Here's the crazy thing. The building stayed in continuous operation the whole time. Like it was connected to gas, it was connected to electrical, it was connected to plumbing. This 12-story building or whatever it was, people kept working the entire time, and it took a couple of days to rotate.
Yeah.
And then when
some rich guy on top just didn't like his view. What was the justification for it?
I honestly don't know. I'm sure it was like either a land rights issue or somebody, whatever, a parcel issue. Who knows? But there's cool photos of it that you can still see. And then when I was living in Chicago, I learned about this church, this beautiful, very large Catholic church. And when in the age of the automobile, Chicago was widening the streets, they were just going to like chop off the front half of this church. And the parishioners were like, no way, because it's a bunch of penniless immigrants who came over here and then donated to build this edifice, right? As a like testament to their heritage.
Usually pretty nice.
Yeah. And so they literally picked the church off the foundation. They moved it like they rotated it 90 degrees and then sent it across the intersection to be safe. And they were like, well, the city's growing, our parishioner rolls are growing. So while the church was off its foundation, they chopped it in half and then added like 30 or 40 feet to the length.
So like a kitchen table where you got that leaf inserts.
Yeah, that's right.
You could do that with buildings. I'll do that with my house.
I know, right? I know. Yeah, my wife can't listen to this. She'll get ideas. Where's home now, by the way? You grew up in Hibbing. Where are you now?
So now I'm down in Bloomington, right outside of the Twin Cities here. Still never. I have not lived outside of Minnesota.
We can hear that. Everybody can hear it.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So you're a lifelong Minnesotan. What's the favorite place you've ever vacationed?
Man, I do like to take vacations. I will say probably best one ever. And I don't want to say it was a work trip, believe it or not. Probably a work trip to Switzerland that I had. I did, I'd say best with the family is definitely going to be Tokyo. I really feel like I love that. That was like a different planet, but I had a really cool week in Switzerland that's going to be tough to beat. And that's so beautiful. It's just an incredible place. And I went bungee jumping off the dam there.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you a thrill seeker? Have you done other things like that?
Not a ton. I would say I'm fairly, not smart in a lot of the things I do, but probably not a lot of physical thrill seeking as much as, mental thrill seeking. We'll call it that.
Are you pretty good about mixing business with pleasure? Like when you travel, like for example, as we record this, last week was Relativity Fest, right? And so I was able to sneak away for an evening. My wife and kids came up with me because we were in Chicago for a couple of years. So we snuck away and caught, dinner and a concert. And then, Friday afternoon, I was able to have lunch with my brother. So I try to be good about, okay, I'm going to have these meetings. I'm going to go to these shows, whatever. But I'm also going to get some time to enjoy the city that I'm in whenever that's possible. Are you pretty good about that, or are you heads down?
I'm going to say probably not. When I used to go to conferences, I actually had the cheat code in conference life.
Yeah.
So first of all, I would only get to go to Legal Week. So I worked at Kroll On Track forever. Only get to go to Legal Week. And then I traveled to client on-site stuff. But every single year they said I wouldn't get to go to Legal Week.
Yeah.
And then every single year, 3 days before it started, they said you have to go now. because they would realize, one of the salespeople would realize, hey, we need to have some analytics nerd that can demo some stuff, and we don't have anyone there, so we have to go. But the thing is that when you have a conference like that, you have the booth.
Yeah.
Everyone has hours they have to work in the booth. They have a demo room. Everyone's scheduled to do all their things. And because I was never scheduled for anything, I could just basically go and be free to do what I wanted the whole time.
Yeah.
So I've been able to, not have to be, or, for those experiences, I was able to do a lot of things and get out and do stuff. And when I go to conferences and speak at events, like so in Switzerland, I was just speaking at this event, and I, had to speak for 45 minutes, and I was there for a week, so I was able to do a bunch of stuff. But now, now when we go to conferences and it's we have a booth, and I got to be there the whole time. I definitely a different environment, and it's not nearly as fun. But I mean, it's fun in a different way.
We're gonna get to your present state. I'm gonna run you through the ringer on entrepreneurship. So,
Awesome.
all right, a couple more of these questions. What was your first concert?
Fall Out Boy in law school. I'm not a huge concert guy. I mean, I always joke with like I can just sit in my car and listen to music, and it's a lot cheaper and easier.
Okay.
But no, I've been to a couple. But Fall Out Boy, Bon Jovi. My wife got me going with her mom to Share. So pretty.
Share.
I'll say that's a pretty broad spectrum of talent too.
Yeah, and multiple decades represented there for sure. So nice.
Like,
All right, not a big music guy. What about sports? What's the best sporting event you've ever been to live?
man, that's I am absolutely a huge sports fan, but I don't go to a ton live. God, I know there's got to be. I went to the Tour de France. That was kind of cool.
Oh, that's really cool.
In France. That one might be the highlight.
It's hard to beat the Tour de France.
Yeah. I'm a Vikings fan, and gone to tons of Vikings games, Timberwolves games, Twins games. But nothing that I could think off the top of my head.
Gotcha. None of the the instant classics that people are going to be like, I remember where I was when I saw that.
Yeah, not any. I feel like maybe the Brett Favre first game against the Packers might be the closest, but yeah, not much. I wasn't there for like the Minneapolis Miracle or the great ones.
Yeah. All right. One more. What is the most used app on your phone? Most used non-work related app on your phone? Don't tell me Outlook.
It's gonna probably be Yahoo's fantasy football tracker now. I mean, that's season based.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be probably, well, okay, I'll say a couple. So during football season, it's going to be my fantasy football app, which we've been using the Yahoo app for the last 20 years now. I got a couple really good friend groups on GroupMe that that we chat quite a bit. And then the home automation ones where all of my lights are controlled, and I can open up my garage door, and so every time I pull up, I gotta open shut the garage door and things. So yeah, I'm a big tech nerd, as you probably wouldn't be too surprised to hear.
I'm shocked, Jim. Having known you off camera for a while now, I'm so shocked that you're a tech.
I mean, everyone's got their own secrets, and that's one of mine.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so I want to pivot in. We kind of hinted at it a little bit, where you talked about the difference between your Kroll days and your days now. But what a lot of people may not know is that eDiscovery AI is not the first company that you founded. You are a bit of a serial entrepreneur. So how many companies have you founded?
I'm gonna say probably 5, 6, maybe. We used to, at our old office, it used to just have some screws in the wall behind me where I could hang up a banner. So depending on what meeting I was at the moment, I would just switch out the banner so it looked like we have an office around that company.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been quite a few, and we've grown a lot, and we've merged some, and we've dropped some, and it's been an interesting ride.
So talk to me. What was the first company you started? Tell me the story.
So I back in my early days, first job out of law school was doing doc review. And as you'd expect, I was blown away by how that worked. And everyone doing doc review is seeking other jobs the entire time they're there. I mean, it's interviewing and so a lot of people were, so a close friend of mine actually started taking on criminal offense cases because we're downtown. He could basically take them over lunch. And he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I just realized that they publish all of the list of everyone that's gotten arrested. And I can just get the list from the police department and I can send them letters saying, 'Hey, I'll represent you, for your DWI or whatever it is.'" And I'm just like, "Well, don't type out those names like an idiot. I can write you a program that would like extract them so you just have a nice clean spreadsheet you can do a mail merge on." And then, so that was great. And then he told me, he's like, "Well, I saw there's a company that sells this data and they charge $800 a month for the list. And I can get the list from like most of the state." And I'm just like, "I could do it and charge 200. This will be easy."
Arbitrage.
So I ended up, probably 3 months later. And so this is probably 2010. Couple of months later, I'm collecting data from about 50 different police departments around the state, compiling it. They have, some send PDFs, some send spreadsheets, some send text files, and wrote programs to compile it all, to deduplicate records, to do address verification, and then to do filters based on what types of crimes he wanted, and send him a list to do a mail merge on. And then I ended up selling that. Basically what I did was I found a person that got a DWI. I got all the letters that that they had got sent in the mail, and I just called every one of those lawyers saying, "I know that you're sending letters in the mail. You're probably paying $800 a month for this. Do you want my list for two?" And got a ton of people signed up, and then I kind of did that on the side while I was at Kroll for a long time. And then shortly after we had a child in 2012, and my wife stopped working, and so once the kid was a little bit older, we started doing mailings where now we would not only sell the list, but she would send out the letters for everyone. And so it actually has grown a little bit. So that company that was selling it for $800 a month, I now own that company. And we now do mailings. We send out about 10,000 letters a month. And I think we right now are the only company that will selling arrest data in the metro. And so if you get arrested in Minnesota for a DWI, you're probably going to get 20 letters in the mail. 18 of them are going to be ones that got your name from us, and probably 10 of them were actually sent from us, where we just send the same exact person letters from like 5 different law firms. And the best part is all of that work now is done. We found a guy that basically every day compiles the reports and then prints off everything and stuffs the envelopes and mails them out. And he actually lives and rents from that friend of mine that started it all, that had the law firm. It's his roommate that now handles the whole process.
We come full circle back
and
to the
all
beginning.
just back, small world. And yeah, so it was one of those, you see an opportunity.
Yeah.
And you see, and part of it's like that little bit of curiosity of, how would I do this with, could I do this? Is, what's, you start thinking of ways that you're going to run this process of extraction and normalizing records, and just starts thinking, and it turns into more and more every time.
So your entrepreneurial ventures have been legal related. They've been not legal related. They've been, kind of various themes at the intersection of either technology or the law, or a combination thereof. So, regardless of whether it's revenue size or employee headcount or all these, developing products, keep making payroll, whatever the case may be, have you found across all these ventures that you've launched, are there one or two things that you find most difficult about entrepreneurship?
I mean, the most difficult is always just the unpredictable, the things that you're not going to be able to plan for, and the inconvenience around some of these, balancing. Look back to, I remember the day that I was, sitting in the airport, about to take off, and I'm, on the plane, and I'm trying to compile the arrest report before it has to be sent out. knowing that if the plane takes off, I'm not going to be able to because I'm going to lose the internet. And this was, back before there's Wi-Fi on every plane. And so, that type of thing happens where you're kind of juggling stuff, but more likely than not, it's, when something goes wrong, when there's an issue, and it feels like it always finds a way that all of the things go wrong at the same time. And so just making sure that you have, good people in place, I think is usually the answer to a lot of the problems that you have when you're kind of managing multiple businesses. Having people that you trust, to handle those things. But it's always going to be something. And it always happens when I'm at a conference too. Like that's where you're like on the floor at Legal Week, and then something, and I mean, it's usually eDiscovery related when that happens, but either way, it's always the worst time, right?
So that leads in very directly to another question that I wanted to ask was, how do you identify people that have the right skill set, that have the right temperament, that you can trust to make decisions when you're not available, or when you are, you're tied up with other things, you have other priorities. How do you, I mean, that's in my opinion, the toughest part about building a business is identifying those people and then balancing delegating to them to make their own decisions, but also trying to put my own fingerprints on the business and say, hey, this is the vision and these are the guardrails. And you can do whatever you want in these guardrails, but don't go outside of it, right? So finding those people and then enforcing that balance, how do you handle that?
Yeah, no, and that is one of the toughest, because if you do it poorly, it really, really hurts. I mean, when you hire someone that ends up being a bad fit for whatever reason, it's a very, very expensive and inconvenient thing. So, I mean, luckily, a couple approaches have been really helpful for me. The first is hiring people that I know are good. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people, and the eDiscovery has a broad set of skills. There's a lot of things. Even like a project manager. That's the type of person that can usually do a lot of different things. And, it doesn't matter if it's project managing an eDiscovery case, or project managing, trying to help build a data extraction and REST reports business. So a lot of the hires we've had have been coming from people that I'd worked with in the past, that I knew were good, I knew were reliable, I knew that I got along with really well, and putting them in positions that help them grow. And then, having people that are in positions that they really enjoy, where we can get the stability of making sure that they stay. Because the other thing that's really expensive is when you have to replace a person that's really important to your company. So, finding people that are good based on past experiences, and then making sure that they have what they need to stay and be happy, and are, compensated well, but also enjoy what they're doing. That's I think number one. And then number two, we hire a lot of contract workers for short-term tasks. And a lot of them, we have a lot of customized requirements where, we need something quickly and something designed or something built. And there's a lot of really, really good platforms now for bringing on contract work and finding people with skill sets that are really, really unique. And what we've done, and oftentimes what I'll do is I'll hire like 3 people to do a task, and then just figure out which one's the best at it, and then keep going with that person. And so if you look across all of our organizations, there is a decent number of people that started off as strangers on Upwork that picked up a random task, that showed that they were really, really good at that, were really, really qualified, and then gave them another task and they crushed that, and gave them another task and crushed that. And then now are very, very integral parts of our organization. I mean, we have a web developer from India, a woman who's been with us for over 10 years now. I think I've been working with her in one way or another. Probably 10 now. I'm looking at the year. And we also have a guy from the Philippines that's been working with us on a lot of tasks. So it just comes from building up that trust in the person. And it's it's a little bit easier with, contractors where you don't have to take that risk and you can hire 3 people. They can all do the work. You can decide which one you like most, and then you can follow up with that person and keep giving them more and more work. And you just can't do that with a salaried person. And so what we try to do is, eventually, bring them on in the salary role if the need's there, because a lot of times we are hiring someone who might be fulfilling a very, very narrow task that we just don't have a ongoing need for.
I love that answer. And I actually created 2 Upwork projects today.
Really, I mean, I actually live and die on Upwork.
Yeah.
There's not much that you can't put a request out there that a person isn't going to be knowledgeable. The biggest problem sometimes is just having too many people applying. I mean, I've
Yes.
posted jobs and I've had 200 people apply and trying to sort through. But once you find a really good person, you just want to keep them.
Yeah.
Find the people that are good, find the people you like working with, and just keep finding a way to, involve them in the things that you're working with.
Yes, absolutely. Jim, what is new at eDiscovery AI, and where can people reach you if they want to learn more?
Well, I'd say everything's new, right? Because this space moving so quickly. As you know, with RelFest RelFest last week, they announced Air, which I feel like is going to be a really big launch into the AI review space. They're gonna be able to reach an audience that's far bigger than we have, give credibility to the process that we've been promoting. So that's probably the biggest recent development in the space. But as you know, like, it's every day there's a new something or another. And that's what makes it really fun. I don't think that I could say that I've ever been bored in this job. This is always exciting, always fun, always challenging. So that piece is really important for me. And then and you can always find us. LinkedIn's the platform for getting a hold of me for anything. But then our website's eDiscoveryai.com if you want to learn a little bit more about what we're doing and kind of what services we offer. But really love, we've been really hitting the conferences hard. I was at a conference yesterday in Charlotte's RelFest last week. We'll be at EDI in whatever 2 weeks it is now. So love seeing people there. I really have started to really like seeing seeing people at conferences, seeing people, going out with them, kind of building the relationships. And it has been, I'd say the last 6 months has been a lot of fun, with seeing a lot of the people, seeing a lot of the same faces every time, getting to know them. So yeah, if you're ever at any conferences, love talking to you, love seeing it. And I could talk about AI and eDiscovery all day, every day. And so if you can talk to me about it, that just means that my wife's not going to have to listen to me talk about it at home more. So you're really, really doing her a favor, if anything.
Awesome. Well, Jim, cheers, and thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.